y'all. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I am Ashley Bushy. I'm with the project team, and I'm joined by an incredible group of historic preservation specialists that are going to talk to you about the resources that are available to historically designated properties, and they will introduce themselves as they come up, but their names are all up here. Quickly, I think we all know we're all here because we love Colfax, right? It's a really critical transportation route historically as well as currently through Aurora and Denver, and then accessing out to our wonderful Rocky Mountains. And it represents the development of both of those cities, Aurora and Denver, from the 19th century up through today, and includes representation of incredible amounts of historic themes, including architecture, social history, buildings that are grand scale, smaller human scale. I mean, we have an incredible variety on this corridor, and that's what we really want to celebrate in historic preservation. Our team did put together, if you're interested more about the history of Colfax, there's a short video that is on YouTube now, available at that QR code, called Destination Colfax. And it includes a lot of submissions that were provided by the community, postcards, photographs, and that kind of things from people doing business and growing up in this area. So it's a really interesting opportunity to take a look at the development of this corridor. So the reason we're here today, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end, but I want to get into our content and our folks. The East Colfax Ave BRT project is offering an opportunity to business owners to historically designate their properties, if they choose, under one of the 4 programs available in the area. That's the National Register, State Register, Denver Landmark, and Aurora Local Landmark programs. And so we have an opportunity to express interest, talk with our folks about benefits. So we're really going to focus on why you might want to do this and what kinds of access and resources are available. So I was going to hand this to Ryan to pass around. I'm going to hand this to Katie. Sorry. So we're going to pass around a flyer that talks a lot more about where you can get more information on designation itself. I'm passing around the version in English. We do have a version in Spanish language on the table at the back. So this is an opportunity to get more information on designation itself. These folks can talk about that and also about our resources. I'm going to pass it to Joe, who's joining us from our State Historic Preservation Office, to give us an intro to the benefits of preservation.
Look at this service. It just lines up with my mouth here. It's great. Now he's going to hold it. Look at this service. This bar is fantastic. Hi, I'm Joe Saldabar. I'm the Architectural Services Manager for History Colorado, and so I deal a lot with built environment stuff, including this building. Our archaeologists, well, here we go. Archaeologists always tell me that I'm wasting my time because everything I'm interested in will eventually be under the ground and it'll be their turf, but that's like 1,000 years from now. We have plenty of time. So I'm here to talk about historic resources, and really we have a great team here that offers financial incentives. I mean, things get more expensive every day, it seems like, especially with building materials and things. We're able to help with that. We have grants that we can provide for business owners. We have historic tax credits at both the federal level and the state level, and those tax credits also apply not just to commercial properties here on the Strip, but also if you have a historic house that you live in, or you know somebody who has a historic house, there's a residential credit as well. So we'll be covering that as well today. And also there are many ways to kind of get yourself onto that train platform. You can get listed on the National Register. Some of these buildings already have those listings. We also have a Colorado State Register, and as Ashley mentioned, there is a Denver Historic Landmark Program, and for all y'all in Aurora, there's an Aurora Landmark Program as well. And we have folks from both Denver and Aurora who are going to talk about that as well. So I was not paying attention. Let's see who's up first. It's Winter. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, awesome. Hi everyone, my name is Winter. I work with the State Historical Fund at History Colorado. It's the grant program that we offer at the State History Museum. Thank you, Ashley. The State Historical Fund offers a really wide variety of grant opportunities, primarily for buildings that are historically designated at the local, state, or national level, or are on their way to becoming designated. So we have a wide variety of programs. We've got non-competitive grants that are up to $20,000. They can help fund things like historic structure assessments, where you can have an architect come in and look at your building and determine, all of the different things you might need to do to fix it up. We also have non-competitive planning grants if you need construction drawings done for your building, design drawings done if you're wanting to rehabilitate your building. Those are really great starting points. And then we also have competitive grants that can fund all the way up to $250,000. And those are really great for actual physical work projects on your historic properties. So if you have foundation work that needs to be done, window rehabilitation, roof work, even plumbing and electrical work, we know historic buildings can have a lot of problems. So these grants are really there to help you kind of supplement the cost that it takes to do that work on those different types of projects. So I put our contact information there. I also have business cards. So if you're interested in becoming designated and you're interested and you have a historic building and you want to talk more about grants, I'm always available to talk. We do site visits and virtual calls to help walk you through this grant process. So now I'll pass it over to Sarah to talk about our other program, which is tax credits.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Sarah Kappel, and I manage both the state and federal historic tax credits. As you see on the slide, we're one of the few states, lucky states, that do have a residential historic tax credit, and then we are one of 39 states that have a commercial state tax credit, and then every state has access to the federal historic tax credit. So depending on your designation and what the use is, we most likely, have a program for you. But yeah, you would. I highly encourage, whether you're in Aurora or Denver, that you're working with your local Historic Preservation Commission. They'll be able to connect you with our staff as well. But I really pride myself or, brag about the fact that we work with them. So if there are questions and something that you're planning to do, that we can ask them, be like, hey, what's going on at the local level that's really driving this? But in the end, yeah, work at the local level. For state commercial tax credits, it's 20 to 25% back on what we call qualified rehabilitation expenditures. So that can really add up, and they are very friendly to stack with the state historical fund grants, any kind of federal or other state or local funding that is an opportunity to use. So if you have any questions, I will also stick around. But yeah, for the most part, you would work with me, and I think I'm a pretty nice person to work with. So hopefully you're okay with that. And then I don't know who I passed the next one. Chris.
My name is Chris Geddes. I'm the Historic Preservation Specialist in the city of Aurora. And just to give you, a little bit of information about how we can support any kind of access to financial grants. Local landmark status in Aurora will qualify you for tax credits as well as for grants. We are more than willing to talk with folks and help them write letters of support or, whatever we can do to make it happen. The local landmark status in Aurora, I hate to, because I used to work in the National Register program, but it's quicker to go through the local landmark process in Aurora. We don't charge for it. Some communities do charge. Denver charges, I think it's like $250 if you're the owner. So we don't charge for that. We want to encourage as many people to designate properties as possible. We provide a plaque, landmark plaque, so showing people that you are a historic landmark, and that to have pride in the fact that you are preserving a property important to Aurora's history. We have a guidebook that we are in the process of updating now, but we feature all of our local landmarks and our cultural heritage sites. In that brochure, we give it out at the Havana Street Night Market, at the Aurora Fest, all of our outreach that we do in the community. And it's one of those things where people ask me why we continue to print this booklet, and it's because everybody loves it. They take it and drive around and look at the different resources. So we continue to print it, and we'll have a new one out soon. Again, the local landmark, you don't always have to be listed at the National or State Register to qualify for grants. For the tax credits, it can depend on if you're going for a commercial tax credit or state tax credit, federal level versus state level. And then, just some pointers about why we would want to landmark and designate resources. Again, the pride in your property, buildings that have designation and districts that have designation tend to weather economic blips or downfalls better. They have higher property values. It revitalizes communities. So Aurora just established DDA, which is a Downtown Development Authority. And so looking at how can we reuse some of the historic buildings by accessing tax credits and or grants and reusing those buildings. We don't always have to knock everything down and build new. And by reusing some of those buildings, it draws people in. The more activities and restaurants and things you have, it will draw people in and bring in tax dollars to the community. And, creating tourism opportunities. We have the Fox Theater, we have a cultural arts district with the Vintage Theater, the Fox, the People's Building. There's a lot of great restaurants around there, working on art shows. And so there's a lot of opportunity in that downtown corridor along Colfax to really capitalize on getting a lot of business and bringing tax dollars into the community. Like everybody else, I can hang out and answer any questions you might have. And I'll turn it over to Katie, I believe.
Hello, everybody. My name is Katie Peterson. I am the Endangered Places Program Director for Colorado Preservation, Inc. We are your statewide historic preservation nonprofit. So like I said, I'm the Endangered Places Director. So what we do is we provide technical assistance to currently 149 resources across the state, whether those be on the state, local, or national register. We can also help you to get that. And tax credits, we also work with Sarah. But what I'm really here to talk about is our Preservation Services Program. In order to apply for a state historical fund, if you are a private owner, you do need to have a nonprofit partner, and that's what we are here for. My amazing colleague, Amy Ashleman, she heads up all of our grant projects, and that's kind of basically what we do. We're just here to help out, and I'll talk a little bit about Historic Denver here shortly, but they're kind of our sister program for Denver. So like I said, HDI, or Historic Denver, they are kind of like us, but they do support all of historic properties in Denver, as they are a little bit more focused. They also do preservation easements, which prevent demolition of historic properties and modifications that could harm the historic character. Also do tax credits work with Sarah for all historic preservation work, and they also do homeowner education classes. If you go to their website, Historic Denver, they have a whole bunch of YouTube videos about how to preserve your historic home.
Stay up here. For the Denver landmark process, so Denver Landmarks is the local program for designation. They also offer review and design assistance. So if you have a historic property and you're looking at making a change or needing to update some of it, they can help you with finding the right people to work on it and connecting you with folks at the State Historical Fund or with the tax credit program. Again, we all intermingle and work with each other, and so we can connect you with the right folks. And then if you have questions about whether something you want to designate, they can help you see if the property meets the criteria. They can help you with the nomination process, and then with guidelines as to what's appropriate to do on the building. So just like Aurora, helping folks, and we're here to support people who need assistance or have questions.
We're back.
We do have some case studies or examples just really quickly. As some of you might be familiar with the La Vista Motel that's just right down the way, they recently completed a rehabilitation project where they took an old motel and turned it into another new motel. And so they were able to get on the National Register of Historic Places through our office. And then they were able to also get $1 million between both our state and federal historic tax credits in order to help with the costs that it took to do the rehabilitation. And it also is a great example of while they, have to kind of preserve what's there and go back to what it was while retaining those historic, what makes it special. We did have to work with them in order to meet new codes and needed fire, shut off valves and everything. So there are little changes that wouldn't have been historic, but in order to make this project work, we were able to work with them and make it look pretty again.
So in the interest of time, we weren't going to go over all of them, although I might do them really quick. So we have Stanley there, if y'all have been to Stanley Marketplace. Oh, I stole it from, all right. Someone has taken Stanley Marketplace, forget that I mentioned it. Fountain Inn, which is down the street, if you might remember it as Rock Bar back in the day. That's just been rehabilitated for living spaces. The Bonfils Theater, which is now tattered cover. And the one in the middle there is the Bosworth House, which is over on Josephine, and that's a residential property, but that's an example of one where somebody renovated a house, they live in the house, they were able to take a tax credit. You don't have to live in a building with the word mansion in it to be able to claim the residential tax credit. The minimum expenditure is $5,000.
100, so a half mil project.
Well, I mean, how much do you have to spend?
5.
So only 5, if you have a residential project, $5,000. These days, $5,000 is like a water heater, so you're in. And I also wanted well, Chris is going to take over for Stanley, so I was going to talk about Stanley. Chris is going to talk about Stanley.
Yeah.
All right, come on up here, let's talk about Stanley.
We've known each other 25 years. We can do this.
So Stanley Marketplace, again, you might remember, just making what? Ejector seats?
Yeah, it was the Stanley Aviation Company, and they made ejector seats. Fun fact, if you didn't know this, when they first started testing the ejector seats, they used baby bears because they didn't want to use humans. And, nowadays we would obviously feel like that is way, yes, immoral, not appropriate. But back then they did that's how they tested the seats. The building was vacant for years, a lot of kids kind of hanging out, fires were set in the building, but a developer came along and purchased it and converted it into, I'm sure most people know the Stanley, it has all different kinds of shops. Visit Aurora is based out of there on the second floor. There's space you can rent, and then there's all kinds of great restaurants. There's a playground outside, there's going to be community gardens coming in to the west, and then there's a daycare center there. And they got tax credits, which you could probably speak more to, but the main thing that we're concerned about, it was locally landmarked for them to obtain tax credits, and the big thing is to preserve the sign and the exterior, so I'm not concerned with electrical permits and plumbing and that kind of thing.
So the good news is that the ejector seats worked and the bears all walked away, crawled away, probably wondering what on earth just happened to me. But they all survived, so at least there's a happy ending to that really weird story. But it was, so they took $2 million in tax credits. So they got $2 million that came to them in the form of a tax credit that they could either apply, the owners could apply to their own Colorado state income tax, or with a quirk of our program is that you can sell that credit for cash to somebody else. And so let's say, and I'll use a real world example, O'Reilly Auto Parts buys tax credits because every time they sell you a muffler, they have to pay the state state, the sales tax that you pay, they have to pass that along. That the income that they make on that sale of that muffler, a chunk of that comes out of their pocket, goes into the states. So they want to lower their taxes just as much as the rest of us. They'll buy that credit for, say, 90 cents on the dollar, and every little bit helps when you're a company that big. So if you are a nonprofit, you know someone who owns a nonprofit, but you have a for-profit business, or you just don't have a very high tax liability, you can still use millions of dollars in credit and convert it into cash that you can then pour back into your renovation project. So somebody mentioned grants earlier. That's another benefit. You could basically double dip because the tax credit is calculated on what you spend, not where that money comes from. So whether it comes out of your pocket or a business loan, or you have a rich uncle, or you're getting a grant from the State Historical Fund, that's all money that comes back to you in your pocket when you calculate that tax credit. So it's a good way to double or triple dip on these and build up that capital stack to help finance the project. In a lot of cases, you can really get yourself close to financing 50% of the entire rehab cost just on doing these tax credits. So we're really happy to share with that. Yeah, I think we'll all be around to take questions, so I'm not sure who's next. Who's next? All right, thank you.
I think on my QR code worked. I don't know what happened to that slide. Sorry about that. So I won't go through all of this information that's on this slide because it is in that flyer that we sent around, and we have plenty of time to talk with folks here. The QR code is also on your form, and that's to offer interest if you're interested in learning more or would like to become historically designated. I will say, Chris mentioned that there's sometimes professional fees associated with becoming designated. That's what the project is offering. So if you are interested, the project is offering to take care of those professional fees so that is not a barrier to entry if you want to designate your property and get access to the programs that these folks all talked about. So I'll wrap it there.